What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Go Further podcast. I've got an exciting guest for you guys today. Megan Feveryear is a prominent entertainment and music industry executive, artist manager, and media entrepreneur based in Nashville, Tennessee. She's the founder and CEO of LongRun Media and Management, an agency dedicated to artist development, tour marketing, and digital brand strategy within the faith-based and gospel music sectors. Megan launched LongRun Media to provide comprehensive career infrastructure for musical artists, ministries, and live tours. Rooted in an operational philosophy of building multi-generational influence, her firm manages everything from boots on the ground tour production, social media content creation, to long-term artist development. She is the creator and host of two highly rated faith and lifestyle podcasts, This Day Podcast, a bi-weekly storytelling show featuring real-life testimonies from authors, master chefs, musicians, and the Consider Lilies podcast, which challenges creatives to pursue high-level callings without succumbing to burnout. Originally from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, Megan transitioned to Nashville, where she quickly established herself as a trusted voice at the intersection of media, entertainment, and ministry. She frequently speaks at elite leadership forums, including organizations like Influence Women, on how emerging creatives can maintain authentic storytelling while scaling commercial careers. Megan, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Dylan. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, let's go. So why don't you tell me, a little bit about yourself? I know I gave you a nice bio there, but why don't we take it back to the beginning to contextualize a little bit? So it sounds like you grew up in Lancaster. Did you go to college or study? And then what'd you study? And then how did you get into the world of music and kind of the faith-based side of the music and entertainment industry in Nashville?
Yeah, so I grew up, I always tell people, I say I'm a northern person living in a southern world. And that cannot be more true than in the winter when we just don't have the infrastructure down here to handle any winter weather. But yeah, I grew up in a small town just outside of Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And from there went just 6 hours south to college, to Liberty University. And I studied digital marketing and advertising. And it was great. It was fun. I loved it. Built such a great community at that school, and I'm forever grateful for my time on that campus. Learned so much. It wasn't even really a job. I mean, I guess you could call it a job. It just didn't pay.
An internship, as they say, right?
It was basically an internship with the college record label. At the time, they were transitioning from Red Tie Music Group, because Jerry Falwell Sr. always wore a red tie, so they named the college label Red Tie Music Group, and they were transitioning to Liberty Music Group. And I was like, hey, I want to do something. I didn't even know what to call it. I was like, I just want to do something in the music industry, but my degree is in digital marketing and advertising, and I want to be on the business side. And I sent an email to the School of Music, which was freshly just starting to grow in spurts at the time. And now it's really grown. And this sweet, sweet lady who, her and her husband are pretty predominant songwriters here in Nashville, which again, at the time, naive Megan from small town Pennsylvania had no idea who she was emailing. She reached back out to me. She's like, yeah, come on in for a meeting. And I started to do social media for the college label. And that was a great start. It definitely put me in the middle of like learning the lingo. And I tell people, again, at the time when I was in college, Instagram Reels didn't exist. TikTok didn't exist. Twitter was not even X. And we were loving YouTube. So Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter it was great. We were loving it. Instagram was still new to us. So I was just learning and having a great time. And then from there, about my senior year, I registered for online classes at Berklee College of Music to get a music business degree and took some classes online, which I do not recommend anybody doing. I was averaging like 20 credits a semester, and um, just was like, I need to learn. Like, I just wanted to learn more, while also taking just any internship opportunity I got. And out of Johnson City, Tennessee, with a company called IMC Concerts, started to work with them and do just some of their festivals and one-off shows in the ticketing and production space. And from there, was able to connect with a huge group of people, which has now led me to Nashville.
I love it. That's a super cool story. So I guess the lesson for those young people who want to get into some of these industries that traditionally feel like, they're heavily gate kept, and, they are, and there's a lot of entry level positions and grunt work, and you got to kind of work your way up. I went into the more traditional side of the entertainment industry after studying film at UCSB for 4 years, but my junior year, I interned for the Santa Barbara Film Festival, where my college was based, and then my final year, I interned for Ivan Reitman's Montecito Picture Company, which got me the UTA job list, which got me my first PR job as a junior account executive at Bragman Nyman Caffarelli, which was a major celebrity and corporate PR firm based in LA. So, I think the key is, like, when you're young and when you've got that free time and when you're studying, may not seem like you have a lot of free time, but that's the best time to work for free, when you're still, hopefully getting, college assistance, or maybe your family's helping you with school. So I think that's a great lesson.
Absolutely. Take every opportunity, like fill that schedule.
Very cool. So, so you got out to Nashville through working with this concert promotions company. When did the idea of kind of setting up your own shingle come to mind? When did the idea of LongRun media management kind of fully manifest itself? And what was the thing that you were thinking in your head of, like, hey, rather than try and find a gig or something like that at a record label or a talent agency or a management firm in Nashville, what kind of got you thinking about starting your own shop?
Yeah. So, well, I'll kind of break it into two parts. The name actually comes from the street that my grandparents' house and my grandfather's business was built on. So he had a little car repair shop, and gas station, a golf gas station. And growing up, um, he was always his own business my whole life, but that gas station was just the biggest light to the community. Everybody knew him and everybody knew of them, and they would just come there. They may get a tank of gas, may get their tires fixed or whatever, or they may just come there to just say, "Hey, like, we're having a bad day." And so I noticed that as a kid, and then when he passed away when I was in high school, um, his funeral service was like packed. And these people that we didn't even know, like, were just coming, and we're like, oh my word, you remember him from this gas station? And it had been closed down for several years just because he got older, and my parents and um, their siblings didn't want to take it on. And I was like, man, if I could ever carry that name on in some way, I would love to carry it on. I just don't know how. So that thought kind of stayed in the back of my mind. And fast forward, I get out here to Nashville, and I came out here, took a job at an agency, loved it, had the best experience. And then the time kind of came when I was like, um, the head of that agency got offered an opportunity to um, transition to work for another group. And he came to me, he's like, hey, this is what was offered. And I said, you go for it. And blessed me with just being a connector, connected me with different people. And from there, I was like, you know what? I I think it's time. Like I think it's time that I make my mark. Like it's going to be scary, but I think it's time to do it. And there, I just was like, why don't I use this name from my childhood and see if I can carry on just a small piece of home with me.
I love it. That's a sweet story. I think, I got a lot of my inspiration to be an entrepreneur from my grandparents. They were window manufacturing folks, and I got to live with them for a couple of years in Washington State when I was growing up, and I think that generation really, showed what it was like to be an entrepreneur, what hard work looked like, and how to be successful. So I love that story, and I love that idea of the name coming kind of from your family legacy and being able to carry that on. So all right, so let's talk about kind of so you launched LongRun Media to provide comprehensive career infrastructure for musical artists, ministries, and live tours. To some degree, that maybe doesn't feel completely connected. The idea of like the artist and the live tour side and the ministry side. So how have you been able to blend and kind of take, the music and the entertainment side of gospel music, Christian entertainment, but then also blending that with working with ministries that might not be as versed in entertainment and social media, but they're doing great work out in the world, and they need to leverage some of this, Hollywood storytelling, so to speak, to get their messaging out there into the world.
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, the way you can look at it is so many artists and so many tours. A lot of people just see the glitter and they see the glory. They see the exciting parts of like, oh my word, my favorite artist just came out on stage. They're going to sing my favorite song. They see the lights and all of that. But behind everything, all of these people deal with real life issues. All of these tour personnel deal with real life issues. So when I started to do what I do, I'm like, we're called in scripture to steward our gifts to ultimately just win people to the Lord. And a lot of when I moved here, we'll have a lot, we're in the Bible Belt. So people will speak Christianese, but they don't really live out their Christian faith. And I was like, I can be the change in that. I can be the person that actually lives out my faith Monday through Saturday and actually goes to church on a Sunday. So what I personally do and the people that I work with, what we do is to just really be that positive influence. If an artist calls and we're talking a marketing strategy, well, how can this have eternal impact? Always bringing it back to the central point of we're winning people to Christ through the gifts that we get to steward, and even a ministry or a nonprofit. How can we steward this nonprofit, whether it's faith based or non faith based, to win people to be encouraged? It's such a chaotic world. So our goal is to always win people back to joy.
I love it. That's really cool to be able to kind of, blend your vocation as a ministry in a way, to kind of use your talents to, not just do amazing craft and amazing marketing campaigns for clients, but really to be kind of that holistic spiritual advisor, maybe, or at least a voice of spiritual discipleship for a group of people that are oftentimes like heavily under attack. You see some of the most famous celebrities in the world were people who grew up Christian, grew up of faith, and when they get into the entertainment industry or into Hollywood, that stuff just goes out the door. It becomes lip service, and then they end
Yeah.
up living these lives that just don't align with how they grew up and what their values were. And it feels like if there were more people on the professional team, if you will, of, agent, PR firm, publicist, business manager, all of the things that maybe could, speak life into them and help disciple them as they go through this incredibly, wild time, and this, amazing opportunity for their career. Maybe, they could stay a little bit more rooted in their faith and not go off the rails as hard. So I love that, that philosophy and that take. So, be curious, as a podcaster, I love what podcasts do. It gives you an opportunity to connect with amazing people, gives you an opportunity to platform and like add a lot of value to your professional network. And then, of course, you get to build an audience and have people follow along in real time while you're building something and while you're building these amazing relationships with people. You've got not just one podcast, but two, This Day and Consider the Lilies. Would love to kind of, hear a little bit about your thinking and like, okay, like we should get a podcast up and running. What does that do for you as a business owner and an executive day to day? What's it been like? And why, two different podcasts for two different topics versus kind of consolidating all of your eggs towards, maybe, it's hard to know. I know as running a podcast, it's hard to run one, much less two. So, but I do podcasting for clients. So I do technically have three, but I only have to manage one of them. So be curious, just your podcasting strategy, why you decided to launch that, et cetera.
Yeah. So This Day podcast actually came first and launched during COVID when you were really fun employed. Nothing really happened. And it was one of those things. I just called up a bunch of friends in the music industry space. And I said, hey, I am doing nothing right now. If we just had a conversation and recorded it like we would do over the phone or over text, would you be okay with that? And then launched it to however many people will care to listen, because I don't know if anybody will at this point. Would you be up for it? And to my surprise, everybody said yes. And I'm so grateful that they said yes in the early days. And that one just kind of started because I was honestly bored. I'm not the kind of person that can just sit still. And ever since then, it's always just been a creative outlet. Like if I am just struggling with an idea for another client, I know I can just go take a break, do the podcast, do stuff for the podcast, and come back and just have an idea. So for me, it's a creative outlet that I can just do something else creatively. And I always tell people, I'm like, if you're running your own business, you have to have something that feeds you too. Or you may get stalemate, just trying to figure out what you're going on. But the second podcast actually came, a friend of mine said to me, hey, like I'm wanting to, she's in the film and faith-based film industry, and we connected, and she wanted to do something in media. And so I was like, well, let's think about it. I'm not just going to join forces and we don't have an idea. I said, let's think about what we could do. And I texted her, I said, what if we just did a podcast? And we wanted to gear it just specifically towards women and just encouraging women. We had a lot of female guests on. So that one really just gauged towards that audience and really segmented there. But again, it's just a fun creative outlet. I think the long-term goal as far as that would be to just have a podcast network. And there's a couple clients that I have that I've helped build their podcast just because they knew I have one. So that's kind of the goal. And it's fun. It's something different.
Yeah, I love it. I think you're right. I think podcasting is kind of a low stakes environment to test creative ideas, whether it's with a single guest or whether it's just like, putting your thinking out there in the real world and getting feedback. Today it's so easy to shoot podcasts, whether it's, doing something like this over a software platform or, I use this app called Peerspace a lot where I can rent studios around the world, in whatever, market that I happen to be in. I always want to kind of like elevate the production value when I can to get out of, kind of the Zoom format, because I feel like there's something special that happens when you're talking to somebody in the real world and you have that chemistry element. But, it's a very lo-fi way to kind of, get an idea up and running. So I love that idea of you really thinking of it as like a way to use it for creative inspiration, ideation, having discussions with interesting people to get outside perspectives, but also using it as kind of like an IP incubator in a way as well. So that's really interesting. All right. The music industry moves incredibly fast these days. Artists are under constant pressure to feed the social media algorithms, but the algorithms don't really make them money. Streaming doesn't make them money. Monetization is under pressure in a host of different ways, but really it feels like the only way that artists are making money these days is through brand partnerships, touring, merchandise, physical products, things of that nature. How do you help a new artist focus on long-term career infrastructure, without getting distracted by the short-term nature of, the feeding the social media algorithm? And, are you advising clients to go the route of a traditional label, stay independent? What is I imagine the use case is probably different depending on who you're talking to, but what do you kind of do as like an intake with a new client?
Yeah, well, that's the all-encompassing question, right? Do you want a label? Do you want to go independent? It is, when I'm talking with a new client, it is kind of fair. It's a fair question to really, it's a ball put in their court and what their longevity is, right? So in general, what I typically will say is, hey, like, let's start this conversation off by, what is your dream? Like, what's your 10-year goal? And you get a feel for what the creative element is, because if you want to be an independent artist, you have to have drive, you have to have stamina, you have to have creativity that's going to last for a long time. Because the independent artist market is getting larger and larger every day, with people that, will post a song on TikTok and all of a sudden blow up and be the next, big thing. But also having the support of a label when times get hard, because the music industry, you can be on the highest of highs for an entire week and then hit the lowest of lows. Just, you didn't get the tour you wanted, or you didn't get the song cut that you were hoping to get cut. And having that support from a team is super important. So it's kind of just a conversation that I'll have to say, hey, like, what are your goals? And then you can gauge the creativity of the individual, of the group, and just find where they're at. And everybody's different. So I'm not the one to push them in a certain direction until I really know which way they're leaning to, and then we can be on the same page.
That's great advice. Live touring changed completely over the last few years with rising operational costs. When you're mapping out a tour strategy for an independent artist or a ministry, what's the biggest line item risk that managers traditionally overlook?
Oh my goodness. Well, it honestly depends on the size of your tour. A lot of people, they can create the largest overhead because they want a huge sense of production, and that can be overlooked. If you want all of these lights, fog machines, that's going to cost you more than if you're just getting up there with you and maybe your band members and a couple of sound techs. But if you want lights, fog, like pyro, depending on if you're going into arenas or outside festivals, that's going to cost you way more. And that can be something small, but it can be overlooked. Because there's something to be said, like when artists do acoustic tours, that is such a cheap, inexpensive tour that, can be booked in theaters super quick. And also be super cost effective and easy for money. So
you handle a dual role, writing creative copy and strategy, and also running intense logistics behind the scenes. How do you protect your own creative energy when your daily schedule gets dominated by a lot of high stakes management and administrative executions?
It's knowing when to cut off your time. It's knowing how to balance your time. Like come 5:00, if I usually start my days about 7:30, my work days. And I've learned that come 5 p.m., I have to have a good work-life balance. So I need to turn off the email at 5:00. Like tomorrow, we'll have email at come 7:30 a.m. So 5:00, nobody's catching on fire. And it was a lesson I had to teach myself pretty early on. So I need to silence the inbox at 5 and go on a walk, make dinner, go be with friends, just do something so that I can wind down in the evenings. And because normally something happens in a day and you have to get it off your mind. You have to decompress, or it's gonna eat you alive.
I love it. Yeah, it's important to figure out how you work the best. If you're a morning person, if you're an afternoon person, and what types of work energize you. Do you like being in rooms and crowds, and do you like networking and kind of that vibe, or does that take energy away from you? So yeah, I think it's great to have that, rigidness around trying to architect your day, knowing that, you might get a text here and there when something gets crazy. But yeah, I love that idea. I'll leave my phone in my office in the evening. Like I don't always turn it off right at 5:00. I kind of turn it off whenever I start to feel a little, tired, I guess, for, sometimes that's at 5, sometimes that's at 7. But once I decide to turn it off, I'll just leave my phone in my office. And then I still have my watch to see, updates and stuff, but at least I'm not like sitting there, still scrolling, still looking at things, still talking to people. So I love that. All right. Gospel and faith-based entertainment is a pretty big business. It relies a lot on a foundation of spiritual trust. Where's the absolute line on what an artist should commercialize versus what must remain deeply personal and sacred?
Yeah, I think that line comes with, each artist's individual walk of faith, right? So some want to keep their family very personal. And I think that's super important. And their music, obviously, very public. So you have to just gauge each individual, just their journey. There's been some people that I've worked with that they're just like, hey, we want to keep our family out of the spotlight, because it's a big thing. Because once people know you and feel like they connect with you, they want to know everything. And then, if something happens in your family, they want to know, well, why did this happen? And is trying to answer all of that. So sometimes just having that humility, to know that line and keeping that music, obviously keep the music commercialized, make the sounds, make your brand, right? But keeping, your personal life as private as you want it to be. People want to connect with you, but as much as you want to keep that private, keep it private.
That's good advice. You've spoken on stages for organizations like Influence Women on the emerging topic of creativity and authentic storytelling while scaling commercial careers. How important is it to find those stages to be able to get up and build your personal brand by being a thought leader, but also inspiring others?
Yeah, I think it's super important because you want to get everybody has a voice, everybody has a message to get out there. So when you find organizations that align with your values, um, give it a shot. Go out there, try it. Influence Women. There's some great people over there. So first off, they were great to align with, but also, go out, find a different stage. Like it doesn't have to be the TEDx stage. It can any type of stage just to say, hey, like this is what I'm about. And you're ultimately going to connect with more people from that. And building your network is what the entertainment industry as a whole is ultimately all about.
We see massive cross-pollination between country, folk, bluegrass, and contemporary Christian music. How are you advising artists to lean into the fluidness of these genres and kind of reach non-traditional audiences or crossover audiences?
Yeah, I'm loving some of the crossovers right now. So go for it. I think it's a great way for the faith based audience to get out there and just continue to spread the message of faith. Um, I think it has to be the right crossover as well. Um, so obviously, if you just feel a little bit of conviction to maybe not partner with um, different artists in different genres, then don't do it. But I think it's a great way to expand the territory of any and every genre.
You've also written about how high achieving corporate creatives feel the need to keep a death grip of control on the steering wheel of their careers. How do you coach a driven entrepreneur to gracefully hand off operational pieces to assistants, members, without feeling like they're losing control and they can lean into, trusting and building out a team?
It's all one of my good friends. She told me this just recently, honestly. She said, in order to grow, you have to let go to grow.
I like
And
that.
that really got me. I was like, that's where you got to let go. You got to let go of that death grip. In order, if you want to grow in whatever industry, it doesn't have to be music, but maybe you're trying to decide if you're going to leave a job to get a new one. You may just have to let go if you're gonna grow. So that's my best piece of advice that I give when it comes to that quote.
The entertainment industry can be notoriously transactional. You've also spoken openly about navigating hurtful industry words and transactional relationships and people who take advantage. What operational guardrails should young women building businesses in Nashville implement to protect their mental peace and stay focused on their core mission?
Yeah, it definitely was a lesson that I learned as soon as I came down here. Because again, being from a small town, I was so used to, hey, if you say you're gonna do this on a Wednesday at 5 o'clock, it'll be done Wednesday at 5 o'clock. So the biggest thing that I would advise anybody is one, you think it would be easy, stick to your word, but it's it's not that easy. Um, so my biggest piece of advice to anybody is one, strive to be a person of your word, but also, you know, investigate the people that you're working with in a healthy way. Don't, as much as you want to say yes to like the opportunity as it's presented, do your research, ask, because ultimately you're in a town or an industry where somebody probably knows the person that maybe offered you the job. So ask them, well, how do you feel about this person? Like, are they good to work with? Do your research before you jump in, and just make sure that, you don't take something that feels too transactional. Because ultimately, yes, everybody wants to get paid, but you don't want to be on the backside where you're just being taken advantage of 1 month later, or I've been in situations before where the description was one thing and then I ended up doing something else, and those are never fun to present to a client and say, hey, I was supposed to be doing A and I'm actually doing B.
Yeah, scope's kind of gone off the rails.
So just always ask. I would rather ask more questions than be in the dark.
As legacy record labels continue to consolidate, boutique firms like LongRun Media are handling more heavy lifting. What's the single biggest asset that a boutique agency provides an independent artist that a massive corporate label can't deliver?
What a lot of people will come to us and say is, you cared about what we did, about what we do. You were there to give, attention when we needed it, to, this release, to this land. And I think that's just the biggest thing. If people call me, they're going to get me. If they email me, I'm going to respond to the email. Sometimes it takes a while to reach the larger people, or you'll reach somebody at a larger label and you'll get their assistant. So that's one thing that a boutique can provide versus a larger entity.
Yeah, you get hands-on experience. You get to work with the principals. You're not getting shuffled over to a junior team after you sign on the dotted line.
Yeah, for sure.
Love it. Well, Megan, great to connect with you over the show. I know we worked together on a lot of your clients at the National Religious Broadcasters Conference earlier in the year. It was fun to collaborate. So it's nice to get to put a name behind the face, or on email, etc. And glad we're able to have a conversation about all the cool things that you guys are doing in the space, and hopefully we get to continue to collaborate. If folks want to follow along with your thinking, stay in touch, connect, reach out, learn more about the label or about your firm, where would you like to send people to stay in touch?
We are on all of the socials, and that's the best place where we'll post if we're, at an event somewhere, or, anything about our clients. So LongRun Media and Management. You can find us on every social platform.
Let's go. Awesome. Well, thanks for spending a little bit of time with us today, Megan. And if this is the first time you're seeing the show, don't forget to give us a follow or a subscribe. If you're listening, an honest review on whatever podcast platform you're listening on is how we find a larger audience organically. So don't forget to do that. And if there's an artist out there who's trying to break into the country music, gospel, faith-based scene, or somebody from the industry who you think would benefit from the conversation that I had with Megan today, maybe a female entrepreneur is looking to break out on their own and do something exciting and want some inspiration, don't forget to share the show. And with that, I will wish you a great day. Appreciate you coming on.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.